What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Filthy Report. My name is Jason Filthy Jones, bringing you the dirtiest information with the cleanest style. Hey guys, hopefully you guys caught the fight. If not, let's get to some fight talk because I'm about to give you that recap. Hey guys, hopefully you're having a great one. Hopefully you caught the fights. Hopefully you're having a Merry Christmas. But as for me, it's been a crazy cluster just going on with all kinds of things. It's funny to me because I was supposed to have this video out for you guys already, but with having a 2-month-old puppy and also having a 6-year-old son off of school, it's more like, hey, you need to record? Cool story. We got other plans, but you guys aren't here to hear that, and I'm pretty sure you guys are trying to run around and grab presents just like everybody else in the world. But with all that being said, let's get to these fights because they were some stellar fights on the main card, at least. On the prelims, there was like only one finish, and that's shout out to Jimmy. Sick ass submission. Glad to see you made it. Glad to see you're taking it on, and glad to see you're toughing it out. Other than that, also off the prelims, got to give a shout out to Anthony Pettis. We'll be talking about him a little bit more later. But besides that, let's get into this main card. And starting off with Tabora versus Greg Hardy. Now, I mean, it kind of played out the way I thought it would. I did think that Hardy was going to be able to push through a little bit and maybe be able to crack into that top 10. I never really thought of Greg Hardy as being a champion, being because he started really late in MMA, but being because he was a heavyweight and that he's super athletic, I thought he would break into the top 10 and be able to hold the least, maybe top 6, maybe. But as you guys can see, I'm not going to bash him too much. He was doing good in the first round, was putting on a good pace, and was basically challenging Tabora to see who was going to be the one that really pushed the pace and control the fight. As we stepped into the second round, it just seemed that I don't know what happened with Greg. It just it seemed like his cardio took a dump in the second round. Also, he got taken to the floor and he seemed like a complete fish out of water. He is working with Dean Thomas and Rashad Evans. I'm hoping to see him back soon, but other than that, got to give it up to Tabora. Tabora put it on him, grinded him out, and ground and pounded him out, showing him that he still has some really good Polish power, and was able to get the finish, get a TKO win. Props out to Tabora. Hopefully Greg Hardy can bounce back from it. We'll see how he does. He took it in a good stride of understanding that he just wasn't the man that night, and Tabora really put it on him and brought it to him. So with that, that's pretty much it. Now, the next fight that I'm about to get into, Marlon Moraes versus Rob Font. Now, if you're hardcore, you might know Rob Font. If you're casual, you might have heard of him. He had a really bad injury, was sitting out for a while, and this was his first fight of 2020. Now, I'll get to Rob Font in a minute. I want to talk more about Marlon Moraes. I don't know. I don't know where to go from here. I'm thinking that probably just 135 is not the weight class for Marlon anymore. It's seeming like the weight cut's really becoming strenuous for him. He's seeming not to be able to carry on throughout all complete rounds, and which is a hard thing because he was a champion. He did come from World Series fighting and came over to the UFC, and he was working his way up. He had a couple of hiccups, got the challenge for a belt, but ever since that, it just seems like I'm starting to notice that as he's getting older, it's starting to dwindle a little bit, and I think the weight cut's just getting to him. As you guys see, if you see Marlon when he walks into the cage, he's a pretty big 135er. I think he could probably work it in 145. I actually also think he might be able to compete at 155, but we're going to have to see from here. But the one thing I would be worried about, with Marlon comes a very big price, so is he on the chopping block? Is he not? I mean, he's on a 3-fight skid. I wouldn't be surprised if you see his name pop up at the end of this month or even at the beginning of the year being cut from the UFC. But we'll just see how it plays out. I think he's still a decent fighter. I just think he's not in the right weight class anymore because he's not able to sustain his cardio. And it seems that he's relying on his power a lot. I did like that he came in trying to push the pace on Rob and take him to the floor, trying to use his jiu-jitsu. We don't really see that much from Marlon. But with that being said, let's see how it goes from there. With Rob Font is just looking sick. That New England cartel is really starting to come up. They're really starting to put their name on the map. I think we have a really good challenger with Rob Font. I wouldn't mind seeing who for them to toss him out next. There's a couple of guys coming back, and also don't forget TJ Dillashaw is going to be back this year. So we'll see how that goes. Can't see how he gets in the mix with the 135ers. Other than that, let's get to the next one. All right, guys. Now, this was a crazy fight. I thought that this fight was going to go completely different. It was Michel Pereira versus Chaos Williams. Now, as most people, like everybody says, it's hard for you to choose against Chaos Williams because he's never been in a complete fight. He's always pretty much gotten the person out of there either in 30 seconds or even, I think the last one was like maybe 10 seconds. He cracks, he hits hard, he has a really good pace, he has really good power. Just is nasty on the feet. Now, I think the reason I overread this fight is because Michel Pereira is always seemed to be that more of an acrobat, likes to perform for the fans and everything than actually competing and fighting. But recently he's basically changed his camp. He's dialed in. He's moved to the States. He's at Vegas at the PI, grinding it out, actually really training hard. I think he's over at Syndicate. He might also be at training over there with them. So, I mean, he's taking his actual career a little bit more seriously, and it showed in the fight. He kept the pace, kept pushing it, was still able to do the shenanigans that he normally does, and trying to get Chaos off of his game and pushing Chaos back. Chaos couldn't really find the target and be able to put Michel out. Michel did take some hits, and he also kept Chaos on the outside, being able to use his kicking game and using his takedowns and his awkward, unique style of fighting against Chaos to get him the win in the decision. Where do we go from here with Chaos? I mean, I don't see him falling too far back. I still think that maybe in the middle of 2021, he'll probably end up being in the top 10 or at the height of the top 15, which I mean, like always, like 12, 13, or 14. We'll see where it goes from here. I'm still on the Chaos Williams train, but it was a very different kind of fight. To see Michel Pereira really be dialed in and actually push the pace on somebody was really nice. I think we do have somebody as a challenger in him. Let's see if he starts to tone it down with a little bit less of his shenanigans, and I wouldn't be amazed to see him in the top 10. With that being said, got to get to the co-main event. Getting into the co-main event, I was super biased about this fight, and reason being is Marlon Chito Vera is actually one of my good friends' training partners. He's also being coached under one of my good friends, Casey Hasteling, out in Vegas from 10 Pound Jiu-Jitsu. He also was out in Orange County. Phenomenal coach. And so with me, I was always going to lean toward Chito Vera. Now, with Jose Aldo had been on a skid. He wasn't looking like himself. He hadn't been looking like himself for a while now. And it just seemed like he was a complete different fighter. Now, with that being said, this fight was completely different. Jose Aldo came in like a man on the mission, and he was on point. He was mixing in his ground game. He was actually throwing kicks. If you guys don't know about Jose Aldo, if you're not a hardcore fan and you're a casual fan and you haven't seen his WEC fights, you should go watch those. He was a phenomenal kicker back in the day. There was also a fight. If you guys could find the fight, it's going to be Jose Aldo versus Uriah Faber for the featherweight title. He demolished Uriah Faber's legs, literally fractured his shin bones. or Uriah Faber also documented it. He couldn't walk for a week. So with all that, it's just crazy to see the kind of fighter that Jose Aldo has developed into being, especially with him moving down in weight. And if you guys don't know, Jose Aldo used to have a really difficult time even making 145. So to see him go down to 135 and fight at this kind of capacity, it is freaking ridiculous. He's looking phenomenal. I can't wait to see what happens. And Dana White, UFC, whoever, if anybody's out there, even all the fans, let's get on it. The fight that I would love to see would have to be Jose Aldo versus TJ Dillashaw. I think that would be a really great fight. Couldn't wait to see that happen. Also, it puts both of them in a really good spot. Now, that is a matchup that should be made. With that being said, which Marlon Chito Vera, don't count him out. He had a hiccup. He got knocked off of his win streak. I guarantee you he'll be back. I guarantee you he'll be in the top 10. And I guarantee you probably he's going to be a champion one of these days. So be on the lookout for him. He's still a phenomenal fighter. Just wasn't his. And Jose Aldo did what he had to do to win the fight. It wasn't the best ending to the fight because it ended up being just Jose on his back for the whole last third round. So we'll see how it goes. Now, the other question you guys should think of this. Would that be a different fight if it was a 5-round fight? Because Jose Aldo would have had to conserve some of his energy. And also, to tell you guys, Marlon Chito Vera is no slouch when it comes to cardio. He runs 15 miles all the time just to train for his fights. So keep that in the back of your mind, and let's see what happens on the next one. All right, guys, with all that being said, let's get to this main event. And the main event had Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Jeff the Hands of Steel Neal. Now, this fight was a phenomenal fight, even though it went bell to bell, but it showed really what a lot of people were saying, and the same thing I said in the back and the breakdown. Basically, if Wonderboy Thompson can keep you on the outside and pick you apart, he's taking the fight all day. It sucked for Neal because Neal has a lot of power in his hands. It just was that he couldn't get in on Wonderboy Thompson. Every single time Wonderboy Thompson was tagging him with strikes, right when Neal was trying to engage, he would look over and basically Wonderboy wouldn't even be there anymore. He'd be moving to a different direction, and so when Neal was throwing his combinations, basically was just throwing it at air, and it just seemed to go out that way for the whole time. Now, it did suck because Neal and Wonderboy Thompson did collide heads. I think it was in the first round or maybe the second round, and they both ended up with cuts. The cut was a little bit worse on Neal. And when you're fighting somebody that's a sniper like basically Wonderboy Thompson, he's going to pick and paw at that wound the whole time to get it to open up more, so he can either get a stoppage or he can catch you off with a blindsided shot and be able to put you out. Now, the question for this week is going to be this, guys. Do you guys think Wonderboy Thompson is on another title run? And do you guys think he should be tossed to somebody in the top 5 division? The top 5 of the division, of the welterweight division, and see how it goes. Now, the things to keep in the back of your mind, UFC doesn't normally like to really put older guys in to get their championship. And we do know, I think if I remember right, Wonderboy is about 37, 38. So where does he go from here? Is he going for a title run, or is he just fighting for fun? Let me know. Hit me up on my IG or hit me up in the comments on YouTube. Even hit me up on my comments on Facebook. You can find it at The Filthy Report. And with that, guys, that's pretty much all I got for you guys this week. It's a really short week because this was the last fight of 2020. And we're going to be breaking into 2021. So with all that being said, all right, guys, let's get to these fight announcements and this fight news. Now, first off, I have to talk about Jake Paul. Now, I know he's basically marketing his way the style of kind of like Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor and all that, where he's just very brash, putting himself out there and talking all this crap and all this shit that he can. Now, with that, guys, all I have to say is this. I think that Jake Paul's starting to bite off a little bit more than he can chew. And I'm not saying with the whole announcement that he's going to be fighting Ben Askren. or the announcement that he's going to be fighting Dylan Dallas. Now, if you guys don't know who Dylan Dallas is, he's a phenomenal jiu-jitsu guy, and he's also Conor McGregor's jiu-jitsu coach. Now, with all that being said, the reason I say it's not these two fights because the two people that he's picking to fight is, of course, Ben Askren, and Ben Askren is basically a hardcore wrestler that was able to become highly good at what he could do in MMA because of his wrestling style. Now, the other one, Dylan Dennis, is, like I said, a jiu-jitsu player who is a high-level jiu-jitsu player. Now, with Jake Paul calling him out just to do boxing and calling Ben Askren out to just do boxing, these guys don't have those kind of hand skills, but they do have some hands because they do, remember, all the fights start on the feet, so you have to have some kind of boxing skill or some kind of kickboxing skill. Now, with that being said, let's see what ends up happening with this fight between him and Ben Askren. I would pray to God that Ben Askren is able to put his ass out and humble him, but I just don't think so. I think Jake Paul is going to be a lot bigger than him and also have a little bit more power than him, and I think his hands are actually going to be pretty decent versus Ben Askren. Now, Dylan Dennis is another one not to overlook. No, he doesn't have the stellar hands that people think he does, but I mean, he is an MMA fighter. He's a ongoing Bellator fighter right now. So he works on his hands all the time, and he trains at SBG over in Ireland with Conor and all them. I think he'll be well prepared, and I wouldn't be amazed if Dylan would be able to put out Jake Paul. Now, let's just say that Jake Paul gets past Ben Askren and Dylan Dennis. Now you're off to the races because now you're calling out Conor McGregor, Gamebred, the Diaz brothers. These are fighters that Jake Paul does not want to fight because I don't care what kind of payday you're going to get. It's not going to feel great if you're not going to be able to count the damn money. So stay tuned to that. Keep your eyes glued to the screen to see what's going on. Will I be watching the fight? Of course, I'm a degenerate. I watch all kinds of combat fights. So stick to the screen and let's see what happens with Jake Paul. Now, earlier I talked to you guys about Anthony Pettis. As you guys probably heard now that Anthony Pettis has called it his career with the UFC after 12 years and has decided to part ways with the UFC. And he's already parted ways and he's already inked a new deal. He's going into the PFL to compete at lightweight or welterweight over there to finish off his career. Now, as much people are going to say, like, what the hell? I thought you were going to go to Bellator. Let's hold the brakes real quick and just pump the brakes on all that. Now, I kind of understand where this is going. As you look at Anthony Pettis, it's becoming kind of like in the later years of his life, of his fight career, he doesn't probably feel, or maybe the UFC wasn't matching him on a price where he thought he was getting his money's worth. And like we said, UFC is trying to trim off the fat and get rid of the big paydays that they have to pay out to the fighters. So why not let Anthony Pettis go? And who does he sign with? But none other than the PFL. Now, as much people are like, oh, I thought he was going to go to Bellator and all that. I don't see a real big problem with him going to the PFL. I wouldn't be amazed if they throw him right into a title shot or give him a top contender for the title shot at lightweight or welterweight. And reason being is, it's kind of lucrative for a fighter to go to the PFL, especially a high caliber fighter. I mean, look, Roy McDonald did the same thing to move over to the PFL. And now Anthony Pettis, I wouldn't be shocked if he's moving over there. I mean, if you win the whole tournament, you end up winning $1 million. That's a guaranteed $1 million payday. And you can continuously do that over and over. Every single time you win the tournament, you win $1 million. So let's see how it goes for Anthony. Good luck to him. It was a phenomenal time having him in the UFC. Also watching him become the lightweight champion of the WEC. He'll never be forgotten, and of course I'll be watching him over at the PFL. Now, with all that being said, let's get to the next one. And now, have you guys not been asking, where the hell's Jorge Masvidal? Masvidal was one of the top leading fighters of the year last year, and still going on this year. He is a phenomenal. He's one of the biggest stars in the UFC. But yet we have yet to see him again to come back to the cage after his short notice fight with Kamaru Usman. Now, there's been talks that saying that it's supposed to be him and Colby Covington fighting for a main event, but no contracts have been signed or anything. And now we got Colby Covington coming out screaming out at the rooftops that he's ready to go. He's just waiting on Jorge Masvidal. Now, just to give you guys a little bit of backstory about how this fight will probably go down, not really go down, but the reason that this fight's such a big thing is these guys used to be best friends. They also used to be training partners. They also used to be roommates. So there's a lot of personal issues that are going into this, to the point that Jorge is still at ATT, which is American Top Team, which is one of the leading MMA training camps out there in Florida. And Kobe has parted ways with ATT because of all the shenanigans that come with Kobe. So we'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to that fight. Hopefully they can get it booked. Hopefully it will get booked for March or sometime soon. Other than that, I can't wait to see what happens with those two. Now, the other news that I had to tell you, which is also the biggest news, is that the UFC is kicking it off big. On January 16th, they'll be coming with their first fight from Fight Island, which is going to be Fight Island 7, which will be Max Holloway versus Calvin Keator. And Calvin Keator is another one of those guys from the New England cartel out there in Boston. Phenomenal hands, really good striker. Let's see how he does with Max Holloway. I can't wait for the fight. Now, the reason that this is such a big fight is also the UFC is inking a deal with ABC, and ABC is supposed to be airing the live event on their channel, which will be broadcast across the nation worldwide, across the nation and also worldwide for everybody to be able to see, which is really big for the UFC. So that if things go right, this could be a deal with ABC and ESPN at the same time simultaneously, and just means that the MMA and UFC will be getting out there to a larger market with more viewers, more eyes, which I would love, because that just means more people into the sport. That means the sport gets built up. It just gets bigger and gets phenomenal. And with that, guys, that's all I got. It's a really short week. We're going to be off for 3 weeks. Don't worry, I will have some information. I am already searching for what fights. I'll probably be trying to check out some ONE FC fights. If not, I'll be watching a couple of regional. Like I said, guys, I am a degenerate when it comes to combat sports. I love combat sports. Don't talk to you guys about everything. Also, before I go, shots out to Canelo Alvarez. I still think he is one of the best pound per pound boxers out there. I don't understand how somebody couldn't consider him being one of the best boxers in the world right now. I can't wait to see what happens with him and where he goes to next. I mean, does anybody really want to fight him? Who's going to fight him next? We'll have to wait and see. But with that being said, guys, like always, hey, if this is your first time here, click the subscribe button, bro. Guarantee you, I'm going to be coming back with something else. And if you're not a bro, ladies, click the subscribe button. I know you guys like some MMA too. I know there's some MMA fighters out there that are women. So, click that subscribe button. I'll be back with another one. And like always, do me a favor. Like, share, and subscribe. Let's get the Filthy Report out there. And have a Merry Christmas, a safe one. Here's a drink for you guys. Buffalo Tracer. It's one of the best. Till next time, guys. Peace.